Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Dave Sanders, and I'm serving this morning as your worship associate. We are happy to see the faces of old and new friends gathered here today. The Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Clemson is not merely a tolerant community, but truly a welcoming congregation. We receive here gladly, regardless of your racial or ethnic background, age, economic status, political affiliation, gender expression, or sexual orientation. Our diversity is what unites us and makes us wiser and stronger. If you would like more information about UUFC, I encourage you to check out our website or to speak with one of our very friendly welcome table volunteers after the service. There are many spiritual paths in this world, and you will find more than one within this congregation. You will not be judged for your beliefs. In fact, here your choices are respected and allowed to flourish. I hope that today's service will fill a place inside of you that feels hungry for something deeper. Please accept our invitation to return every Sunday, as every Sunday is quite different. And I do have a few announcements maybe to share with you this morning. Let's see, there's some hula hikes, problem with sugar, part 2. So if you didn't go to the first one, I believe you're still welcome to go to the second part. And I believe that was all. Is there anything I missed on the announcements that we need to cover? Hula. Hula, it stands for Hiking UU Ladies. So it's a set of hikes that one of our congregants, Sarah Summers Hoskins, puts together, and some are more strenuous than others. If you want to get on the email about that, I believe there's some information there with her phone number on the back of your order of service. Now, even though it says Hiking UU Ladies, we have evolved and become more inclusive, so if you don't identify as a lady, you're still welcome to join the hike. So finally, I realize there are introverts and extroverts, but if you feel comfortable doing so, I invite anyone who's visiting for the first, second, or third time to stand and introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you. You want? Oh, nice. Welcome. Welcome. So I invite our congregation to join after the service for coffee and tea and refreshments in the back in the fellowship hall. And I also invite our congregation now to stand and join me in greeting each other, and we'll stay standing for our hymn 95 afterwards, and I'll ring the bell when it's time for us to transition. I will read these opening words. The Bright Thread of Hope by Gretchen Haley. There is too much beauty in this world to give up on it yet, and it is always too soon to surrender to cynicism. Bring your doubt, your skepticism, your downright confusion, even your bitterness. But in the midst of all these, in the center, wrap your tender fingers around that still bright thread of hope. Feel in your heart that still steady hunger for something more. The vision we glimpse every day in the rising sun, across the foothills, the light that spread across the face of the one we love, the look of knowing all there is to know and still loving life. Loving us just as it is, just as we are. For this hour, we come to celebrate, to praise, to give thanks, to refuse to give up, to steady ourselves, keepers of hope, brave builders of this still possible world. Come, let's worship together.
Good morning. My name is... Good morning. Call and response. Yes, Carol. I'm Reverend Christina Branum-Martin, and it is so good to be with you today and to see faces that I know and faces that I haven't seen in a while. Sue Knoll, who is here today from Brevard, also, we knew each other from First UU in Houston. When I was a teenager is when I met Sue. Yeah, it's wonderful. I'm going to light the chalice now, and I'm going to light it in the celebration that we are here together on a day that often is marked in honor of Martin Luther King Jr., but we also are here in the broader sense of reconnecting to community, to change the world, and we do so here heart by heart. Maya, would you come help me light the chalice? I know you know how to use this. I'll let you do it. Thank you so much.
Looks like a bell.
Let's see. Hold on.
Well,
Yeah,
the wick is a bit small.
Yeah, let's push it up. Oops, it's stuck. Let's try that. Let's see if it works.
Isn't this for that and this for that? That one's just a bit hard to do
Thank you
because
so much.
this one is just a bit hard to do that one
It
because it's
is.
at an angle.
It is. Thank you. Each Sunday we share in the reading of our affirmation. If you would join together with me and really feel these in your heart. We gather together in a spirit of love, with justice as our guide. This is our chosen covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth with freedom, and to care for one another. We have a story that is going to be shared by Bill in just a moment. And so if you are young or young at heart and you would like to come forward so you can see the slides better, come on up.
Hello. I'm Bill Brule, and I'm going to read a story called Tusk. Tusk. It was written by David McKee. Once, all the elephants in the world were black and white. They loved all creatures. But they hated each other. Yeah. And each kept to his own side of the jungle. One day, the black elephants decided to kill all the white elephants. Yeah. And the white ones decided to kill all the black ones. Yep. The peace-loving elephants from each side went to live deep in the darkest jungle. They were never seen again. A battle began. It went on and on and on. Until all the elephants were dead. I have to find the rest of it. For years, no elephants were seen in the world. Then one day, the grandchildren of the peace-loving elephants came out of the jungle. They were gray. Since then, the elephants have lived in peace. But recently, the little ears and the big ears have been giving each other strange looks.
Please, not again. Do not start another one.
So much for the elephants.
Okay, that was crazy.
Would you help us collect the canned goods in just a moment after Dave reads something?
This is the time that we set aside for the offertory in order to give towards the financial vitality of this community. In addition to supporting the ongoing operations of UUFC, 25% of the weekly collection plate goes to an organization in the local community that we partner with. This month, we are partnering with the Clemson Child Development Center, who UUFC helped to get started back in the 60s. For those at home, you can go to the UUFC website and use the donate button. There you will see options for paying your pledge and donating towards the organizations we partner with. And thank you all for your generosity.
Your offerings of gifts, of food, and love and care for the community and for this fellowship are welcome with gratitude. And now we move into a period of sharing our joys and concerns. And I want to share first that Maya is so glad that her dad is coming today. And JB and Jacques are so glad that their papa is moving to Clemson for good. Yay.
Because he must have made a big mistake, I guess.
Demetra Briscoe has a joy. She says, I am finished working at Brigham Boston Hospital. Finally, I know the reason for my fatigue and exercise intolerance. Thank you for your support and kind wishes. I will be going to Chapel Hill for further tests, and keep me in your thoughts. We will. Where are you, Demetra? Oh, there you are. Demetra, thank you. Huh? Oh, yes. Dillman Baker Sorrells accidentally fell and broke her arm. She's staying with her son in Southwest Atlanta, and will be there for a little while, and then we'll be heading back home so she can come back to her sweet, beloved house and the community. She says she misses us, and luckily, I, who live in Atlanta, get to go visit her tomorrow, so that'll be good. I have a joy. My joy is that the board retreat yesterday was effective, helpful, fun, informative, and I am so thankful to Elaine Faithful, who is taking on the role of president. I'm thankful for Dave, who came and helped us lead in conversation, and I'm so thankful for the board members for all of their dedication and being there all day on Saturday. Thank you. And my last joy is that the choir, if you join the choir, you can have some fun. The choir went out and did karaoke last night. And it was a little fun, and some of us can really sing. I'm looking at somebody and dance. So join the choir. Sometimes things are in our hearts that we're not ready to share. Sometimes things are heavy, and we're going to put one last stone for those things that are not yet shared. Thank you so much. And we will sing The Children on the Way now. Take a deep breath at this moment because I'd like to invite you to enter into a spirit of prayer and meditation. These words by Kathleen Rollins invite us to sit quietly with our body and feel ourselves in the chair. Spirit of justice, who befriends those who stand upon the constant edge of decision. Crucial and alone, we are grateful to be together this morning. We gather especially to remember Martin Luther King Jr., but not only him, for there were thousands of unnamed women and men who put their bodies and lives on the line so that all may be free. And yet freedom comes with a cost. And we know that racism and homophobia, ableism and ageism, sexism and classism, all of these unacknowledged realities prevent us from fully knowing one another. They prevent us from creating truly beloved community, spoken about by the prophets and ordinary people alike. So may the work of Dr. King continue to eradicate injustice wherever and whenever we encounter it. May we continue to speak out against injustice, to speak even when we are afraid our words will not be heard or welcomed. I pray that the spirit of Dr. King continue to flow through the daily living. May we have the courage of Dr. King as we continue to stand up for justice and reconciliation and truth. Dr. King went to the mountaintop and he saw the promised land, he said in his words, and reassured us that we will get there one day. May this not be a dream, but a reality in our own time. May it be so, and amen.
In the state of Alabama, during the early 60s and the mid-60s, there were several hundred thousand black people of voting age, but very few were registered to vote. As a matter of fact, in the part of the Black Belt, in Selma, a small town in Alabama, that had only about 2.1% of black people of voting age registered in 1965. But today in Selma, more than 30% of black voting age are registered to vote, and 5 members of the 10-member city council happen to be black. But in Greene County, Alabama, during the early 60s, very few blacks were registered, but today that county is controlled by blacks. The highest elected official of the county was a young man, Thomas Gilmore, who was the sheriff.
Stand up and make good trouble. Speak up and make good trouble. Get up and make good trouble. Rise up and make good trouble. Stand up and make good trouble. Speak up and make good trouble. Get up and make good trouble. Rise up and make good trouble. Stand up and make good trouble. Speak up and make good trouble. Get up and make good trouble. Rise up and make good trouble. Never be afraid to make some noise. Make some noise. Never ever be afraid to make some noise. Make some noise. Never ever be afraid to make some noise. Make some noise. Never ever be afraid to make some noise. Make some noise. This is the struggle of a lifetime. Make some noise. This is the struggle of a lifetime. Make some noise.
So you tell us to wait, you tell us to be patient. We cannot wait, we cannot be patient. We want our freedom and we want it now.
We're going to share some words by many people. We started with John Lewis. I was privileged to live in his district in Atlanta, and now it is represented by a woman named Nakima Williams, who is a young black woman with a great power. So his spirit lives on in the voters in his district. These words that we'll be speaking are from Martin Luther King Jr., Fannie Lou Hamer, Bayard Rustin, and Ella Baker.
When an individual is protesting society's refusal to acknowledge his dignity as a human being, his very act of protest confers dignity on him.
Sometimes it seems like the truth to tell the truth today is to run the risk of being killed. But if I fall 5 feet 4 inches forward in the fight for freedom, and I'm not backing off. Fannie Lou Hamer.
We need in every bay and community a group of angelic troublemakers. Bayard Rustin.
Nobody's free until everybody's free. Fannie Lou Hamer.
When machines and computers, profit motives and property rights are considered more important than people, the giant triplets of racism, extreme materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered. Martin Luther King, Jr.
I guess if I'd had any sense, I'd have been a little scared to register to vote. But what was the point of being scared? The only thing they could do was kill me. And it kind of seemed like they've been trying to do that a little at a time since I could remember. Fannie Lou Hamer.
We have deluded ourselves into believing the myth that capitalism grew and prospered out of the Protestant ethic of hard work and sacrifice. The fact is that capitalism was built on the exploitation and suffering of black slaves and continues to thrive on the exploitation of the poor, both black and white, both here and abroad. Martin Luther King, Jr.
You don't see me on television. You don't see news stories about me. That kind of role that I tried to play was to pick up pieces or put together pieces out of which I'd hoped an organization might come. My theory is strong people don't need strong leaders. Ella Baker.
A nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death. Martin Luther King, Jr.
Oppressed people, whatever their level of formal education, have the ability to understand and interpret the world around them, to see the world for what it is, and to move to transform it. Ella Baker.
The problems of racial injustice and economic injustice cannot be solved without a radical redistribution of political and economic power. Martin Luther King, Jr.
And the last one is, I have always thought that what is needed is the development of people who are interested not in being leaders as much as developing leadership in others. Ella Baker. Thank you.
Could I make an announcement?
Yes, Carol.
About President Biden will be speaking at Ebenezer Baptist Church today, which was MLK's church.
So I'm going to repeat that for those of you who are at home who can't hear without the microphone. Thank you. President Biden is speaking today at the Ebenezer Baptist Church, which is in Atlanta, where Martin Luther King was also the minister, and where the Georgia senator is also the minister. Fantastic. I'm going to begin my sermon today with a poem. This is from the indigenous poet Joy Harjo, and Joy writes, "The world begins at a kitchen table. No matter what, we must eat to live. The gifts of earth are brought and prepared and set on that table, and so it has been since creation and so on. We chase chickens or dogs away from it. Babies teethe at the corner and they scrape their knees on it. It is here that children were given instructions on what it means to be human. We make men, we make women, we make adults at that table. And at that table we gossip and we recall enemies and ghosts of lovers. We drink coffee and we put our arms around each other and our children. They laugh with us at our poor falling down selves, and as we put ourselves back together again, we become whole. This table has been a house in the rain, an umbrella in the sun, and wars have begun and ended at this table. It is a place to hide in the shadow of terror and a place to celebrate a victory. We've given birth on this table, and we have prepared our parents for burial here. At this table, we sing with joy, with sorrow. We pray of suffering and remorse, and we give thanks. Perhaps the world will end at this table while we are laughing and crying and eating the last sweet bite. Tables, we have lots of tables here at this fellowship too. I think of the circle dinners and people sharing their lives and getting to know each other across the table and breaking bread. I think of the tables with coffee and sweet treats in our coffee hour. And over a cup of coffee, we linger just a little longer before we go back to our lives during the week where we are busy, and then we come back together on Sundays to be together. I think of board retreats, committee meetings, book clubs, and even the bingo groups, and I know about those domino games, some too. I even joined in on one, didn't I? I think of the table in the back of our sanctuary, where our children sometimes come quietly or not so quietly to be who they are. Because how do you learn to be together on a Sunday morning as an adult unless you have the chance as a child to be present to that process? Around these tables, we have become rooted in our relationships with each other. These are the people we love, the people we share our community with. These are the people we share our lives with, and we are accountable to. Around the table on the 29th, the Social Action Committee here at the Fellowship is gathering again. They're coming together to dream about what they want this fellowship to do and be in this community. It's a way for us to dream about who we are and what impact we want to make. So I invite you, pull up a chair when you have the time to connect, to share your lives, and to dream of what it is to be here at UUFC. So come to that meeting and tell us what you're dreaming about. I dream of being a justice maker in the world, because justice making can carry us all the way, sometimes to the halls of power. Sometimes it asks us and demand of us to support those in need, perhaps the people in the prison cell, perhaps those at a detention camp. Sometimes it calls on us to be present simply to the neighbor next to us, who might be out of a job, who might need a bowl of soup when they're home with COVID. Justice making comes in all sorts of ways, but initially it starts with a relationship. And it starts over a cup of hot coffee, around a table, circled up, and sharing your hopes and your dreams for the world you hope to see. This weekend and tomorrow specifically, folks all around the country and in this community will gather to celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. And as we do so, we are tempted to imagine a charismatic and gifted man who single-handedly moved a generation forward to justice. And he was indeed gifted, and his contributions were and still are profound. Those words that David read are still strong words. They impact me when I hear them and go, ooh, if I could only say something so strong or even be so strong. But let's remember, too, that yes, you too are strong, but Martin Luther King also sat around tables and shared, I imagine, thousands of cups of coffee around a table. And he put his arms around the children, and he listened to the stories of people's lives. And I bet he heard a lot of dreams where we have fallen short, and we still have a long way to go. I'm inspired to share this sermon from some of the work of Reverend Molly Hoosh Gordon, who wrote about King. She reminds us that King surely did sit at a lot of tables, but beyond that table and thousands of tables along the South, organizers of less renowned people gathered. And they gathered to organize for justice. That story was really never about a single man. It was about a collective, a community. So as we gather to celebrate Dave and Dr. Martin Luther King, because you are a powerful leader. I've seen it in you. I saw it yesterday at the board retreat. You dream big. So as we come to celebrate our dreams, remember that tomorrow is not about the hero's journey. It's about building a legacy of good works in the context of an entire movement. Reverend Gordon continues, I hope that when we recall the narrative of a hero's journey to the collective justice, that we remember that this is a lie of white supremacy, setting us to believe that only the great and the gifted are worthy to lead, and our isolation is our success. When in fact, it is only ever the community that has been saved through our interconnectedness that we are free. This superior hero narrative is ubiquitous, though. But it's the common way that we remember those civil rights heroes and all the other social movements. And it's in our current day justice work that we need to search for ways for all of us to rise up in that small way that we can make a difference, not only in the world as a whole and the big arena, like in the halls of power, but with the people next to us. We too can rise up and become the next generation. So as we look at the full story of the civil rights movement, this is exactly what we see. We see then and now masses of people who are activists and citizens and expressing their lives, needs, and dreams by organizing, by sitting together, by marching, by boycotting, knocking on doors and sharing cups of coffee, and networking with each other. Isn't this what elections are all about? Knocking on a door and saying, can I share with you the dream I have for the world? So yes, we do see Dr. Martin Luther King at the head of the march. And we see hundreds of people behind him, dozens of people like Ella Baker and Fannie Lou Hamer, organizing behind the scenes, and thousands of ordinary folks making courageous decisions to risk their bodies and lives for the sake of their freedom. In today's justice movements, we see a deep commitment to the same approach. Diffuse and networked people in groups leading each other so that we can lift each other up. And that mainstream narrative that describes these movements as leaderless are in truth leaderful. They are bursting with leadership that is shared and developed and nourished. I see that kind of leadership in marginalized communities, in the movement for Black lives, for trans activism and the disabilities movement, folks who know in their bones that they will never arrive for justice if they do not arrive with the person next to them by their side. This might not be for everyone if it's not justice, is what they say. The dominant culture does try to teach us a different story. And as a white, middle-class white person, I am taught that my success is proven by my capacity not to need anyone else. I have been taught that so much. However, the systemic teaching of that teaches me that I can only do it myself individually, and I need you to be stronger. I need to be in relationship with you in order for me not to be isolated and to doubt my own abilities. This false sense of isolation keeps us from moving forward towards justice. In the book, No More Heroes, Grassroots Challenges to the Savior Mentality, that's a title, isn't it? Speaker to author Jordan Flattery, she says, as a queer Latina organizer and artist, she reflects on the lessons of multiracial movement building. I think white people in movement building need to make a call about whether or not they will be individual activists or if they will really come and commit to being in a collective. Collective organizing, she says, means that you don't have to have a final vote on the strategy or the pace or the timing or the tone or the approach. And to put it another way, it means you actually have to learn to share power and to share political imagination and to work with others in order to be in charge. There doesn't have to be a hierarchy, is what she's saying. And for people with privileged identities, and I acknowledge, like my own, a middle-class white woman with education, this is harder than it sounds. I read this and I agree, yes, I'll share the power, but this goes against so much of my training to be an individualist in this community. A number of times I've put myself at the center of work without even realizing it. And lots of times I realize that I am kind of taking up the space and not giving a chance for others to be heard. In the book, No More Heroes, journalist and activist Jordan Flattery reassures us. This savior mentality is really what this is. It's not about individual failings. It's not a logical result of individual power. It's instead the logical result of racist, colonialist, capitalist, patriarchal systems. So here's the good news. The good news is there is room for all of you around that kitchen table. There doesn't always have to be only one person at that table who's the leader. There is room and food and coffee for everyone. So get yourself to a kitchen table. Find someone who is different than you. Hold them in your arms. Put your arms around their children when they scrape their knee. Listen to each other and share that cup of coffee around the collective work. And this is the place where you can practice listening and not leading for one, but leading for all. Leadership Margaret Wheatley writes, there is no power greater than a community discovering what it cares about. She says to ask about what's possible, not what's wrong here, and keep asking that question. What is possible? Notice that the way you answer gives you a clue of what is truly known about what you care about, and assume that others can share those dreams. And be brave. Start a conversation about what matters to you, to the people you know, the ones that you know love you. Share your dreams. What do you see and want to see in the world? And be intrigued. If somebody else's dream is different than yours because their experience is not like yours, expect to be surprised. Listen with curiosity, because you can inspire each other to share each other's dreams and lift each other up. Rely on each other, for this is where human goodness comes in. So as Martin Luther King weekend is celebrated, I invite you to step away from that isolation that I know I have been trained in, and instead lean on your neighbor and network with each other. So get yourself to a kitchen table, curl up, pour a cup of coffee, find your squad, and listen to each other's stories. It is only then that the legacy of Martin and Malcolm and Bayard and Rosa and Ellie and Fanny and Dave, that our dreams and their dreams will take shape as we all move forward towards love and freedom. And as the line of the closing hymn will say, we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we will get there. So let's finish by singing Wo Ya Ya, number 10, 20 in the Teal hymnal. Have a seat for a minute. I'll give you closing words, and then we always finish with a postlude where we get to hear Corey's beautiful music. As I extinguish this chalice, I'll close with the words, knowing that we honor the spirit of Dr. King and all who worked with him to continue that work. May it flow through our daily living. May we have the courage to stand up for justice and reconciliation and truth. And may we dream of that world transformed by our care. Thank you, Corey.